This show is proudly brought to you by the #Me Network. And now, join us as we go behind the closed doors. We will talk to the people behind the digital smiles, the people who make it happen. You are listening to the Radio NZ Insider Series.
Welcome to the Radio Insider Series. I'm Fid McAwesome.
And I'm V8 Matty.
And this is our show where we have a chat to people inside the industries that they specialise in, whether that's gaming, the tech industry, entertainment, whatever.
All the cool stuff.
All the cool stuff. So these are the guys that are making it big, and we have a chat to them about how they got there. If you haven't had a listen to it already, check out last week's podcast. We had a chat to Chris from Pixar.
Yes, we did.
Yep, it's a great episode. We had some good feedback throughout the week as well about that.
Awesome.
And this week, we're having a chat to
Kevin Franklin from 343 Studios, the creators of Halo 4 and Halo 5.
Yeah, and so this week Halo 5 was released.
Indeed, it's hit the ground running.
Yep, and a few weeks ago we caught up with Kevin and had a chat to him about how he came to be where he is now, his background, and what it was like developing Halo 5.
It's an awesome chat. Enjoy.
Radio NZ.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Kevin Franklin. I'm the multiplayer design director on Halo at 343 Industries from Seattle, Washington.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So, how'd you get into this business?
Really randomly, actually.
Yeah.
I was living in Vancouver at the time, and I saw an advertisement that EA needed people, Electronic Arts.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was like completely obsessed with Fast and Furious and all the movies.
Yeah.
So when I went in for my interview, all I could talk about was cars.
Yeah.
And then they said, okay, well, we got a job for you on Need for Speed.
Oh, cool.
So,
what a cool franchise to start with.
Oh man, it was like being in heaven. So they gave me a Xbox dev kit and a PS2 dev kit, and I was just like, okay, this is too much fun. It was like two toys.
Yeah.
And then I got in there, and my favorite car was like the hero car of that game. That was Need for Speed Most Wanted.
Yeah.
So I got to work on that game, and then after that I got to work on Need for Speed Carbon, and they were just super fun to work on.
So what was your job when you first got in?
So I started as a tester that did a lot of scripting. So I would go through all the vehicles and run little test scripts on them, or I'd make them drive themselves and then look for frame rate drops.
Yeah.
So I was kind of a test engineer. Yeah.
So you got to push the limits and see where it broke.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I also had a lot of work getting the test scripts up and running on all the different new consoles.
Yeah.
So for Most Wanted, we launched the Xbox 360, which is all new. And then on Carbon, we launched the Wii and the PS3. So I got a lot of experience launching.
How different is it to develop for those three consoles, especially like the Wii, from a user point of view, is such a different console to use?
Yeah.
So what's that experience like, trying to develop one game for all three consoles?
It was really interesting, actually. There's some things that are shared, like for the cars, for example, we would build 5 different versions of the cars.
Yeah.
So you'd have to figure out which one was used on PS2, which one was used on Xbox, which was used on Xbox 360, which one was used on PC.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to kind of go through all that. That's just a ton of work. You're bringing me back 10 years, 11 years in my head here. Then the networking was different on all of them. So when I worked on the multiplayer for PS2 versus Xbox, that was completely different. So you kind of had to launch them both and figure out the differences between all the MP. Control set, Wii was a really interesting one. There's a bunch of code that made the car drive itself, I remember.
We only sit on the consumer end of this.
Yeah.
And just from a consumer point of view, it seems like just using it, that it would be completely different to do anything on the Wii, like development-wise.
Oh, it really was. I mean, and that was... I remember as a developer, the first week I got was kind of this big Nintendo dev kit, and it was running like some strange version of Linux, so I had to learn that too, just to be able to talk to the thing. Where the Xbox you could talk to with the regular tools, and PlayStation had completely different tools. So yeah, it was like you think when as a gamer, if I was a gamer, I'd see why don't they just fix that? Why don't they just change that? And then you realize as a developer, well, you spend your entire day just trying to like make the game run, make the game open, and it's like only in the best parts of game development when you really get to actually make those changes or build stuff.
Yeah. So what sort of background did you have to actually get to a position where you could go to a place like EA?
Well, I was before I got into EA, I was a firefighter, which was a little random. So I did that for 3 years. And then before that, I was just obsessed with LAN parties and modding. Yeah. So I started with you guys remember GeoCities? Yeah. So I had a little website called Kevin's Warcraft Workshop. Yeah. Where I would basically take Warcraft missions and modify them, and then build crazy stuff as part of these really early Warcraft 2 modding communities. Yeah. And then I kind of spun that into StarCraft, and I started making lots of StarCraft maps, and then a bunch of my friends in high school, we were just obsessed with making Counter-Strike maps, and so we would set up our LAN parties and play on our own maps, which was really cool.
Did you ever get into like the Quake modding and stuff as well?
A little bit of the Doom and Quake stuff. Like I was messing around with some of the WADs from Doom, but once CS came, and I was just way invested in Half-Life. So yeah.
So did you get any formal qualification or?
So I learned as much as I possibly could with these tools. So when you're a kid, you're playing around with the art tools, you're playing around with Photoshop. When you're packing and unpacking textures, you're learning how to do very, very basic scripting. So I trained myself to do Perl scripting to like do stats. So it would like basically spit out all the logs of Counter-Strike games, run a Perl script, and then create a website that would tell everyone their stats. Yeah. I used to do those for LAN parties. So I learned a lot that way, and then when I started...
Sounds like you were a fun guy.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time doing a lot of nerdy things. And then when I started at EA, I was like, wow, I really like video games, working in video games. I got to start learning how to get better at this. So there's a couple classes that I took at BCIT. It's a little technical college in Vancouver, and I basically just looked at the ones that I thought applied to game development. So they had 2 classes on C++ game programming, one on object-oriented programming, one on networking. So I was obsessed with multiplayer, so I wanted to learn multiplayer networking. I got a great book, what was called Multiplayer Network Game Programming, and I just went through, or multiplayer game programming, and I went through and I just did every exercise and learned a lot about how packets and sockets work and latency and all the different networking models. So that helped me just communicate with the engineers, because I could actually...
You can speak nerds.
Yeah. And then EA had all this thing called EA University. And at the time, my parents were bugging me to go to university. They were like, you gotta go to school, And I was like, look, I'm going to EA University. But it was kind of cool, because they let me take all sorts of classes at EA on programming. And,
does it still exist?
I think they still have a lot of internal training. Microsoft has internal training too, so you can kind of just take spend a day at work doing network programming classes, or just taking C# or whatever you need to do. And that's kind of like, as a designer, getting that sort of like fundamental programming skills is pretty big. So it's something we look for when we hire designers now at Microsoft too. Yeah. And then after that, I went to Sony, or Slant 6 Games, and I made SOCOM.
Sony Vancouver.
Yeah, in Vancouver. And we made a game called SOCOM Fireteam Bravo 3. Yeah. So
was it one with the headset?
There was one. Yeah, that was SOCOM Confrontation.
Oh, okay.
So I worked on that one for a little while. Just the online networking features, so like messaging,
I remember on the PS2 that was the first game that really took advantage of the online aspect of the PS2.
Yeah, that was actually the game was really designed to be. It was online only, so we had to just build everything multiplayer. Yeah. So I got to spend a lot of time working on all the online features for that, and then I transitioned over to the PSP version, where we made this was nuts at the time, we made a 4-player cooperative online or ad hoc PSP game, and it had 16-player multiplayer on PSP as a shooter.
I don't think I ever actually used the ad hoc feature on my PSP.
Well, the people who did were military guys on deployment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they were sitting in their C-130. They had like an 11-hour flight, and they would sit there playing ad hoc with each other. Wow. So we had to make sure we had that feature. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's your background. How do you get into where you are now?
So when 343 started, which was 7-ish years ago.
So this is after Microsoft bought Halo from...
The transition was Bungie left and Microsoft kept Halo. Yeah. So they were starting a studio just to build Halo. And this was while Halo Reach was still in development.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've heard around the industry that they were starting at 343, and I had a pretty good gig going on. I was working on Resident Evil at the time, and then yeah.
Oh, were you at Capcom for a while?
The studio that I was working for in Vancouver stopped working with Sony and started working with Capcom.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's called Slant 6 Games. Great group of guys.
So which Resident Evil title did you work on?
That was...
Oh, I'm a huge Resident Evil fan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
you've struck a nerve now.
I can't claim too much for it. I was involved in the early pitch process. So and then landing the contract, it was Raccoon City.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I left before it was ever playable, so I can't take much credit for it. Yeah, and I went to go work on Halo because I liked Halo way more than zombies. Yeah, so I started there, and we didn't really know what game we were working on. We just knew we were making a Halo game. Yeah. And I brought a whole bunch of designs together. We had a really good team. We built Halo 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So then after that, 3 years ago, we started the game that we're showing off here today, which is Halo 5.
So 3 years of effort has gone into this title.
Yeah, we started Halo 5 very, very quickly after we finished Halo 4.
Yeah.
And then there were some designs and features that we had planned for Halo 4 that we got into Halo 5.
Yeah.
So was there much that you could bring across from Halo 4, or was it a complete fresh start?
There's a lot of knowledge we brought across, but most of the code and all the art and everything is all new because we transitioned consoles as well.
Yeah.
Went from the 360 to Xbox One. So all of a sudden we're building at 60 frames a second and we're building on dedicated servers. So we really had to just start over in a lot of ways. Yeah.
So what was your first title? It was 4. How different was working on 4 to working on 5?
Oh, incredibly different.
Yeah?
On 4 we were still getting together as a team.
Yeah.
Like we were building it. We called ourselves the world's biggest startup at the time.
Yeah.
Because we were a startup that was working on Halo.
Yeah.
So we had
one of the best IPs you could possibly start with.
Yeah. So we were kind of coming into it as Halo fans and developers at the same time.
Yeah.
So we really couldn't screw up. So it was
no pressure.
Yeah, exactly. It was a bit of a smaller team, and a lot of work went into it, and it was just. I'm amazed we got it done still. Like it was just felt so good because we went dark and nobody knew what 343 was doing, and we didn't announce anything or really show anything at all until E3 of 2012. So we walked into E3 and we were like, okay, holy shit, we're like showing off the Halo game.
Yeah.
And then the fans loved it. It was actually really well received. We showed a mode called Regicide. We showed our Slayer experience. We had a great campaign demo.
Yeah.
The graphics I remember back then were just like amazing. So that really gave us the confidence as a studio to just keep going and building. And then on Halo 5, we were like, okay, we know how to make a Halo game. Now we have to make the biggest Halo game.
Yeah.
So we just said, okay, our investment is just way bigger. So all of a sudden we had to build a bigger team.
Yeah.
So we got a lot more people involved. We upgraded the engine quite a few times. And now I'm really happy we have like the largest investment in multiplayer ever by Microsoft or Halo.
So getting an IP like Halo, which has such a long-standing tradition with Xbox, it's synonymous with Xbox right from the beginning of Xbox.
Yeah, it really is.
No doubt you get a lot of feedback from players because game is not known to be quiet on their opinions.
Yeah.
How much do you listen to that and take on board and
I think a lot. Like it's one of the biggest driving factors we have. Like all the designers read the forums. We always answer every tweet or message we get, but I can guarantee we read them all. So we really get a good sense of what the community is asking for, issues they've had with the games, what they're looking for, which features they want, which things they don't like. Then we also took it one step further and just started inviting them into the studio. So we have a lot of community gaming days where they come in and give us feedback on what we're doing. We eventually took it even further and we hired the pro gamers to work on site. So we have our pro team, which are 4 of the pro gamers from Halo 2 and Halo 3 days, and they work with us on a daily basis. So I think it's been incredible in integrating the community and our fans in the development process, and having that communication with them is just huge. We don't always get to say everything we want to them. Like sometimes we're in points of development where we just can't talk about stuff, and it's you always want to talk more about it. But sometimes you just gotta stick your head down and build stuff. So.
Yeah. It must be hard at this day and age with social media, being able to keep those leaks from getting out.
Yeah, it's we have had leaks, and it's I love that the fans are that passionate about finding out about it. I mean, it's really, really cool that people love what we do this much. I thought it was cool going into E3 because I was a little nervous. I thought Warzone was going to leak a little bit ahead of time, but I was like, right before we announced it, I was like online, okay, has anyone found out about this yet? Nobody still had figured it out. Yeah. So it was cool. It was really cool having that like show off and surprise everybody, and people were like, "Holy shit, what is this thing?"
Yeah,
like, they're insane. What did they do? Yeah.
Historically, the Halo franchise has actually taken quite a few cues from the likes of Rooster Teeth and actually implemented that into the game. Is there anything new from the online community that you've taken inspiration from and implemented in the new game?
Great question. So Griffball, yeah, huge. Love the Griffball guys. We're going to be working with them really closely again. Let me think. I think some of the maps that the community built in Halo 4 were somewhat inspiration for some of the ones we built in Halo 5. Simplex is a good example. Yeah. It was a very, very core competitive arena experience, and we loved the way that map played. It was built by a community member, and it sort of the principles of that one really did apply to some of the maps we built in Halo 5. Yeah. So I think you're going to see some inspiration there. We haven't had any major Griffball style transitions yet, but maybe there's some things in store for Sustain that I haven't
you've got a look on your face like you know something.
Well, the look on my face is we have a lot coming post-launch.
Yeah.
We have a lot.
It's just one of those moments where it's like, I want to tell the fans.
You can't always tell everything, But we have probably the biggest sustain plan we've ever had before. So we have 15 maps that are coming out post-launch, and they're not going to be any additional charge to players. Yeah. Which is a really big deal because
that's one of my main gripes these days with games, is that you get the basic game, but to fully enjoy it, you've got to essentially buy it again 2 more times.
Yeah. Oh, it was a huge problem.
It's one of the things that we've actually said on our show just recently is one of our favourite games that have come out is now in its 2nd year, and we still haven't paid a cent for anything extra, is GTA 5. The longevity of that game purely because of the updates being free. And so have you seen the success of games like that and sort of gone, okay, it's working for them, this is going to extend the life of Halo 5?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think giving more stuff post-launch is a great way to engage the community. Also, the point you mentioned, having to buy it again. So let's just say we all bought the game differently. Like you bought 2 DLC packs, I bought 1, and you didn't buy one. Us to play together is like a nightmare.
Because you see it with Call of Duty.
You're like, I want to play all this stuff I just spent money on. You're like, I just want to play. Yeah. And I'm like, I'll just play with either of you. And then it becomes like, okay, well now we've got 3 different matchmaking buckets. So as designers, we're like, well, this is a really difficult problem to solve because we really couldn't. We spent a long time on it. We're like, okay, we're smart, we're designers, we're going to figure out a way to fix this. But you really can't. You're just like, the way to fix it was to give everyone the maps. And, if you look back to the, what was that disc that came with Halo ODST? You got the Halo 3 multiplayer disc. They had, like, all the DLC in it in one disc. I love that. I was like, this is great. All the DLCs in one place. So we kind of wanted to do that with 5 and just make sure that everyone had all the maps. Because that way you're just going to get to play with the same people, the matchmaking gets better.
Is it a concern with what corporate expect out of a game with these added DLCs and constantly being able to make more revenue? Yeah. Does corporate have an issue with the fact that you've said no, we don't want to do that?
Maybe, I don't care.
So you're honestly saying that 343 are like, no, we just want to make the greatest gaming experience.
Yeah, I'll tell you as a developer, I want to invest in our players. Yeah. Part of my job is every day standing up for our players and saying, we need to make sure we don't cut this feature. We need to make sure this is something our fans are expecting. This was in Halo games before. I think that's my job to represent these players and make sure that we're investing in them. So. When we were looking at our multiplayer experience, you're like, okay, can we do 4-on-4 or 12-on-12. What do? We put them all together in one bucket, or is it the same? We're like, no, we need to build 2 different games, and that's what I think the studio, corporate or not, reacted well to. Like, we need to really invest in these players. We need to spend a lot of money. We need to build a really big game because it's going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah. I mean, you do see that with the likes of GTA going back to them, where they just made a ridiculous amount of money on launch. It's almost as if someone said, we've made a heap of money, we don't need to make any more money on selling the upgrades.
Yeah, I mean, there's still stuff you can buy in game.
We've got the shark cards and stuff like that, but you don't need to do that to enjoy the game.
That's a key.
No. Yeah, you got to make it, and like we have a requisition system in Halo 4, or sorry, Halo 5 now. So when you're playing Warzone, you're going to earn, and Arena, you're going to earn rec points, which let you, get packs of cards. So we have systems like that as well.
Yeah.
It's completely voluntary whether you want to use them. Though we wanted to make sure that you can get everything in that system without spending any more money. And it's great because like the designers are always on the side of the player.
So. Give us the pitch.
The pitch?
The pitch. What do we need to know about Halo?
About Halo 5? Well, like I just said, we have 2 games now. So this is like, I've never done this before multiplayer. I never got to make 2 multiplayer games in one title.
Yeah.
We have 4-on-4, which is our competitive, we call it like the legacy of Halo. It's what all of our, you mentioned those core fans that have been there forever. It's what they're looking for. It's a very, very, very hyper-competitive esports build. Purpose-built mode. It's got a couple new game modes in it. It's got Breakout, which was inspired by my paintballing days as a kid.
Yeah.
And it's got Strongholds, which is a completely new take on territory control, built by a really talented designer, Max Grossman. And then we've also got Team Slayer. Quinn Del Hoya has been working really, really well on that. And all crazy suite of maps. I'm going to be doing all the shout-outs to these designers here. Adrian Bedoya made all our maps. And like, there's just a great team working on this very, very competitive 4-on-4 experience. And then on the other side, we have Warzone, which is a 12-on-12 experience. We've got a great senior designer on Lawrence Benton, who's just been putting his heart and soul into building an incredible new game where we have everything in the Halo sandbox in one place.
Yeah.
So we have all the AI, all the vehicles, all the weapons. We have maps 4 times larger than any we've ever had before. And when we started building this mode, everyone told us we were insane. Like, you can't, this is like ridiculous. You can't build something this big and ambitious.
Yeah.
And had this like big poster in the studio that said like impossible happens.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, all right, I don't care. We're just gonna build this thing. We're gonna keep pushing towards. And every milestone, we just kept building. Anyway, so it's a just massive new fun experience that I think people are really going to enjoy.
Yeah. So you're getting the 2 games in one hit.
Yeah, you get there really is 2 games. It's 2 multiplayer games that easily could stand alone as being their own titles.
Nervous about launch?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, you always get nervous until it's out the door.
Yeah.
I kind of hold your breath and you're like, okay, what are people going to think? We have a lot of opinions, we have a lot of time put into it. So yeah, it's a big deal.
Do you have a favourite map that you can recommend?
For Arena, my favorite is Crossfire. It's built like a speedball court.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and it was one of the first ones we built. We built some much more complicated and sophisticated ones, but for me, it's kind of my favorite still. And then for Warzone, we have one built by a level designer, Jeremy Raymond. It's called Raid on Apex 7, and it's built on a Halo ring, and it's spiritual successor to Silent Cartographer.
Okay.
Which is one of the very first Halo missions we played, and you're like, okay, well, it's on this beautiful Halo ring, and we're like, let's build a giant battlefield on it.
Yeah.
With all sorts of fun things to explore. There's like AI bosses you can go after in mountains that are hidden. There's these Banshee Raiders that come in and shake up the battlefield. There's a giant Forerunner Spire where you get these crazy combat over. So it's a really cool experience. I think that's the one that shows off Warzone really well. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks heaps for your time today.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you guys some questions.
Oh, you can go for it.
So, what do you want to see out of gaming? You guys ask developers lots of questions, but what do you think we should be doing?
When it comes to first person,
yeah,
Matt's actually your man here because he's more your shooting baddies kind of guy.
I think we need to see more back to basic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I mean, not to rain on Halo here, but with Call of Duty, they've gone advanced warfare and people are jumping and flying and all that sort of thing. And there's maybe it's because I'm older, but we want to go back to more tactical warfare.
Yeah.
You know,
This is actually something that has come up numerous times this week. Conversations I've had where I've said, "Oh, what are you doing this week?" "Oh, we're going to XONZ for the day."
Yeah.
They say, "Oh," and we get talking to people about like Call of Duty and stuff, and it always comes up as it's become so advanced it sucks.
It really has. Like I think it was about 3 or 4 months ago. I called up a buddy of mine, Ryan, who's the lead multiplayer designer on Gears of War now.
Yeah.
And we just started playing Counter-Strike like every day.
Yeah.
And we were just like every night just getting because it's like it was back to basics for us. Just getting back in and just playing CS, and I can definitely relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be about. That's the biggest gripe at the moment.
that's what we're. I mean, I know Halo is set in the future, so that's acceptable.
Yeah.
But when it comes to first-person shooters, I think there is a gap in the market now for something a bit more old school.
Yeah.
With the new graphics and everything else,
Let's go back
60
to World
frames
War
per
II.
second. If we can go back
I
to
was just
World War
thinking
II,
about that,
then I think that would go really well.
Well, it's been so long since we had World of War was one of the last one. You Red Orchestra's out there. That's a little bit.
Well, the conversation I had just last month with someone who was a big Call of Duty fan was, why don't we go back to World War One?
Yeah.
But, okay, yeah, it wasn't so much about accuracy as it was about tactics.
Yeah.
So why haven't we got a trench warfare style?
Yeah. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tactical games aren't first-person shooters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're where you're organising where the tanks are going to deploy or whatever. But what we want is a first-person shooter that incorporates that on the ground.
Oh, that'd be really good. I like some of the good memory you just brought back. Because remember the game where you like turn a corner and there's like one enemy,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, let's figure out where he is. He ducks behind the thing, and just kind of like this one-on-one engagement you have. Now I turn the corner in a game and like a fucking aircraft carrier lands on my head.
Yeah. See, that's what I used to like with the style games like Metal Gear Solid and stuff back in the day, where you had to be stealth and all that. So if you could like incorporate that with first person as well, would be awesome.
Yeah, I think everyone's gone futuristic.
Yeah.
And they need to stop and just take a little bit of
Why can't we
a
run
look
on
back.
walls and jump with jetpacks?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe all the electronics break. We have to go back to old school. Well, Fallout, I mean, I think you'll get a little bit of that, but there's some...
I'm really looking forward to Fallout.
Yeah.
I've never been a Fallout player.
Yeah.
I actually want to go back and play Fallout 3 before 4 comes out. Because I've never played it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I gotta get back to... I was thinking of getting 2 reinstalled and go way, way back to 1 now. But, yeah, Fallout...
I got an email
I have a
from
problem in
Thursday
that game,
too.
though. I just hoard. I can't use anything. I just end up carrying everything I find in the wasteland around with me.
Yeah.
I gotta get over that. Yeah. But no, I think that's a really good observation. Games are definitely getting faster. One thing we did do in Halo was we had all the armor abilities before, so you could really mix it up. You could have like ground pound, jetpack, thrust back. We had like this huge list and every player had a different armor ability they brought into the game. And we've kind of, instead of building more of those, we just said, okay, everyone gets all this core set of armor ability or Spartan abilities now.
Yeah.
So everyone has the same abilities. It takes a little bit more to learn the controls. You can still do a lot of the crazy stuff, but you don't have to worry about someone else having a different ability than you.
Yeah.
Which we think has simplified it, because I always ask the designers on the team, okay, we're going to add this. What are we going to remove to try to make sure we're not just overwhelming people? How do we make sure? Because it's something we're conscious of.
That is, I mean, there's a lot of games coming out now where there are just so many different options.
Yeah.
And unless you invest a lot of time in the game, you wind up just getting snotted by everyone. Mm-hmm. You can't go in and have fun. And I think for the casual gamer, there needs to be a bit more balance with that.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really it's really intimidating experience.
Yeah.
With Warzone, I wanted players to be able to spawn and feel safe.
It's nothing worse than spawning and getting shot straight.
Oh,
Well, see, this is the thing with me as someone who isn't a full-time first-person shooter player. I get put off when I go play online or give an attempt at online.
Yeah, you just get killed instantly.
It's
It's the number one thing I hear from people when they find out I make
How can I
multiplayer
even
video
get
games.
involved in it
Yeah.
if I can't get into it right from the beginning?
There's a couple of ways. If you're trying to get into arena, you pretty much want to start playing with your friends or someone who's really good who can take you through it. Like I remember this is going to be a really long time ago. The first time, one of my first online games I played was Microsoft Flight Simulator. Like one of the first ones with a dial-up modem. And I logged into this game, and I was crashing my plane every single time I tried. I couldn't even take off. And then there was like a pilot he was like a pilot for Air Canada, and I met him, and he started messaging me. He's like, I noticed you keep crashing your plane. He like started giving me some tips on like how to actually take off. I thought that was like the coolest thing in the world. Like someone actually taught me how to play this thing. So I think that's something that would be, if you're trying to get into arena, if you can find a group of players that you've played with before, they can kind of get you into it. That's always good. With Warzone, we were like, okay, player spawns. You're in a base. You're a little bit protected. You got some Marines guarding you, which you've never really had in Halo before, in a Halo multiplayer game before. There's this really cool screenshot we had. It was like from some concept art where there's like a Spartan who's standing in a Pelican Bay, and I was like, that's never been in multiplayer before. How do we get you that experience of making you feel safe? And when you can choose when you want to go engage the bad guys. You can choose whether you want to go after an AI, you can choose whether you want to go after a base, you can choose. So that was really big for us. So I think that's one difference you'll find in Warzone. But your point about like a casual or easier multiplayer game, I think there's definitely a market opportunity for that. I think there's someone who can come along and make a good game like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for your time.
Oh, no problem.
Really appreciate you taking time to have a chat to us.
Anytime, it's good talking through all
We're
this stuff.
looking forward to getting into some Halo 5.
After lunch.
After lunch?
Yeah, and if you have any questions about it, just let me know.
Awesome.
Let me know what you think. You're going to get to play Escape from Ark today. Which is the same thing we showed off at E3 Gamescom. It's a really cool map. There's all sorts of bosses around it. Each map has 12 unique bosses. So you're not going to get to even see them all in this game. You're going to have to play a couple more times.
We're noobs. We're going to die early.
Just take it in. Just like, it's not, Warzone isn't a game you're going to learn in your first playthrough. It might take you 3 or 4 games to really understand it. And it's similar to a MOBA. You guys mentioned MOBAs. Like that's a similar thing. You're not going to learn that your first try. You got to take some time. And that's really, we don't want to compromise too much on that because we want to have a lot of depth long term. So players can keep playing this months and months and months after launch.
So, are you active on social media at all?
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
It's Twitter, Kevin_Franklin. And I'm kind of incognito on Instagram, but you can find me there on Novic89.
Awesome. Thanks for your time.
No problem.
#me.co.nz